And good afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is November the 13th, 317th day of the year. Just 48 days remain to the year's over with, and we get to start a new year. Holidays and observances. World Kindness Day. Share a random act of kindness. National Hug a Musician Day. Symphonic Metal Day. World Quality Day. Sadie Hawkins Day. Yes, it's the perfect day to flip the old, perhaps sending it to the dustbin of history. This occasion is about empowering women. It's when the women take a stand and take the lead in romantic pursuits. National Community Education Day. World Usability Day. National Indian Pudding Day. National Book Award Week. National Split Pea Soup Week. Artes Mundi. Somebody asked me what that was, and I know I've mentioned it several times. It's an exciting event that brings the world of contemporary art to life in Cardiff, Wales. Established in 2002, this international arts organization that shines a spotlight on artists who engage deeply with social reality. Benjamin Banneker Week, unleashing his brilliance. This remarkable individual made history with his achievements in science and engineering and his dedication to knowledge. National Recycling Week, Anti-Bullying Week, beat up a bully today. Nurse Practitioner Week, Perioperative Nurses Week. Dear Santa Letter Week. It's time to get those letters out to Santa Claus. Transgender Awareness Week, as if we're not aware of them. Sugar Awareness Week, the Cairo International Film Festival. It's one of the big ones. Human-Animal Relationship Awareness Week. National Young Readers Week. Web Summit Lisbon. Famous people born on this date. The one and only Whoopi Goldberg. Well, on that note, let's see what stories we have in the news, because there's always something of interest going on. Well, President Trump signed a bill ending the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. The Schumer shutdown is over. The flight was grounded after a passenger makes a discovery on a crowded airplane. They found a loaded magazine with mysterious inscriptions on an Atlanta plane. FBI was called in. A loaded gun magazine found on a Frontier Airlines plane at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta. Just after 4:30 in the afternoon Saturday, officers assigned to the airport responded to a call about a gun magazine found near Frontier Airlines Gate C6, Concourse C. That's according to a news release from the Atlanta Police Department. Passenger on Airbus A320 aircraft discovered what appeared to be a loaded magazine containing 10 hollow point rounds near seat 7A. Police said the magazine, marked with the initials KH, was found during boarding for a turnaround return flight to Cincinnati. Officers coordinated with TSA and DOA and Frontier Airlines and Homeland Security and Atlanta Police canine units, and the aircraft was evacuated. After a thorough search by officers, no additional items of concern were found. So they rescreened all the passengers, and the flight departed safely just before 8 p.m. Late, but on the way. Well, Florence Pugh calls out completely inappropriate requests during a sex scene on movie sets. Now, Pugh has no problems bearing it all, at least when it comes to honesty. Thunderbolt star, 29 years old, opened up on the Louis Theroux podcast about her mixed experiences on set, praising some coordinators while calling out others for making things weird and awkward. She says she's having fantastic experiences with intimacy coordinators, but she's also had some bad examples. Without naming names or projects, she described one particularly uncomfortable situation. They just made it so weird and awkward and really wasn't helpful. It was kind of like just wanting to be a part of the set in a way that wasn't helpful. That's a job that's still figuring itself out, she said. She's filmed everything from dramas to blockbuster love scenes opposite Harry Styles and Don't Worry Darling and Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer. She said her experiences spanned both before and after the rise of intimacy coordinators. Yes, everything is a specialty now, folks. Well, a Georgia judge has declared a city ordinance banning guns and unlocked cars as unenforceable. A Georgia judge Wednesday tossed out a case against a man who was cited for violating a Savannah city ordinance prohibiting guns and unlocked vehicles. He ruled the ordinance violates state law and the U.S. Constitution. Clayton Papp was cited by Savannah police for violating the ordinance, which imposes fines and possible jail time for leaving guns and unlocked cars in August of 2024. His attorney asked the judge presiding over his case to just throw out the citation. The ruling by Chatham County Recorder's Court Judge Brian Joseph Huffman Jr. likely only applies to Papp's case, as he challenged the ordinance as part of his criminal defense. Savannah's mayor says that they're going to keep enforcing that rule. Ain't know about anybody else what ought to be enforced. Well, Toyota's opened a massive North Carolina battery plant. They made a $10 billion investment. They're expected to create over 5,000 new jobs. It announced Wednesday it's officially begun production in its new $13.9 billion battery manufacturing plant in North Carolina. And they committed to putting an additional $10 billion into bolster its U.S. manufacturing over the next 5 years. The 1,850-acre facility in Liberty, North Carolina marks the automaker's first battery plant outside Japan. It's going to create up to 5,100 new American jobs. Well, the Epstein email suggests ex-Prince Andrew photo with Virginia Giuffre was authentic despite royal denials. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, is facing increased scrutiny after the release of leaked emails to provide new insights into the embattled royals' ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. On Tuesday, Democratic members of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee made public tens of thousands of additional pages of documents from the estate of the late disgraced financier. Emails included in the files referenced Andrew in connection with Virginia Giuffre, who accused him of sexually abusing her on 3 separate occasions in 2001 when she was a teenager, after she was trafficked by Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Andrew, who was recently stripped of his royal titles, has consistently denied her allegations and claimed he has no memory of meeting her. But several emails, including in the documents and obtained by the Telegraph and Sky News, happened to cast doubt on Andrew's denials, including statements that he made during a 2019 interview on BBC's Newsnight. In one email that Epstein sent to a journalist, he seemed to contradict a suggestion made by Andrew during the interview that a now famous photo showing the former prince with underage Giuffre was fake. Well, if he did have a dalliance with her, it's cost him dearly. William and Mary Sophomore helped launch a Turning Point USA chapter at that university. The students at the College of William and Mary, second oldest university in the U.S., are launching a Turning Point USA chapter despite social media backlash and pushback from peers. Olivia Keller, a sophomore at William and Mary, told Fox News in an interview Wednesday that the school administration has been supportive, but her peers haven't been. A lot of the resistance has been on social media app Yik Yak because she thinks students are more comfortable attacking the club behind a screen rather than doing it face-to-face. Well, a grandmother allegedly killed a 5-year-old grandson while driving impaired in the family driveway, of all places. Louisiana grandmother arrested Wednesday after running over and killing her 5-year-old grandson. Kristen Anders, 55, of Slidell, was charged with vehicular homicide, according to the Slidell Police Department. Granted a $50,000 cash surety bond. Slidell, of course, is in Louisiana. Just after 7 o'clock Wednesday. That's 7 o'clock in the morning, don't you know? Slidell Police Department officers responded to 300 block of Spartan Loop for a car hitting a child in a driveway. Officers learned that Carson Lawson, 5 years old, was waiting for the school bus in the driveway, standing in front of Andrew's 2016 GMC Yukon that was backed into the driveway when the grandmother allegedly ran him over. How to teach him to stand in front of a car. Well, President Trump has made the border secure again, but now the hard part begins. He's radically reduced illegal migration. Border control blitzkrieg brought quick victory, but from here on, the campaign's going to be a long one. Finding and arresting and removing deportable aliens that are inside the U.S. that came in under President Biden's open door policy. Most dramatic change since he took office has been at the southern border. Almost no aliens caught entering illegally are now being released. Under Biden, catch and release was routine. Tens of thousands of illegal aliens were fed into an overloaded immigration system that takes years to work through everybody involved. If their asylum claim fails, somebody has to deport them. This month, the Department of Homeland Security claimed they deported more than 500,000 illegal aliens since President Trump took office. They hope to top 600,000 by year's end. A longtime Newsom critic puts the UN summit on notice. If the Democratic governor is allowed to speak, it's going to be climate hypocrisy. The annual United Nations Climate Summit is being held in the Amazonian city of Belém in Brazil, slated to include talks and appearances by California Governor Gavin Newsom. The California Republican gubernatorial candidate and former news host Steve Hilton, a longtime critic of Newsom, is putting the summit on notice that if they allow him to speak. This week, Hilton sent a letter to the heads of the COP30 summit, questioned they deny anybody speaking roles for the California governor will face risking the credibility of the conference. He cited the Democratic governor's climate hypocrisy. According to Hilton, California, under Newsom's leadership, has imported nearly half of all the crude oil drilled from the Amazon rainforest. He said Governor Newsom has built his political image around climate virtue signaling while presiding over one of the most environmentally destructive hypocrisies in the world. This oil comes from one of the most sensitive ecosystems on Earth, contributing to deforestation and the displacement of indigenous communities. And instead of addressing this exploitation, Newsom continues to promote himself as a global climate leader. Well, there's a video that's turned up that shows the Charlotte train stabbing suspect before the attack, minutes before the arrest. The newly obtained surveillance video shows suspect DeCarlos DeJuan Brown Jr. pacing on the platform and boarding a Charlotte area transit system light rail train shortly before the fatal stabbing of Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska, 23, and later exiting the train, being taken into custody by Charlotte Mecklenburg police officers. The video makes it fairly clear there's not much doubt that he is the killer. Well, golf legend Phil Mickelson is lamenting California gas prices. He praises the governor candidate supporting offshore drilling. They're expecting gas to reach as high as $8 a gallon. In one of the posts he made, the golfer shared a photo showing prices at a gas station in California right now exceed $5 a gallon. Well, California University students' third attempt to form a TPUSA chapter has been denied. The third attempt by students at the Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego to establish a school-supported Turning Point USA chapter was denied by the university's Associated Student Body Board of Directors. This decision was announced in an email sent by students to University President Kerry Fulcher November 5th. Luke Cole, the elected secretary of the chapter and a third-year student at the university, said, "I felt silenced when I got that email. Felt like I couldn't speak anymore." That email said the motion was brought to a vote by the ASB Board of Directors and failed to pass after a review process. The email expressed concerns over the organization's professor watch list. According to TPUSA website, the professor watch list aims to expose and document professors who discriminate against conservative students. And there are a lot of them. Well, Jesse Waters made it clear that the world of his lordship Obama is not happy with Chuck Schumer. The Schumer shutdown has now come to an end. China moves into Venezuela's Maduro regime gets Beijing lifeline amid U.S. tensions. President Trump warns about zero tolerance for narco states in America's backyard. China's tightening its grip on Venezuela, a high-risk economic and political bet that could soon collide with U.S. power. U.S. defense officials confirmed to Reuters last month the U.S. aircraft carrier strike group had entered the Southern Command region. That covers the Caribbean and northern coast of South America to monitor narco-trafficking routes linked to Venezuela's military leadership. Jennifer Aniston is stripped down and bears it all about an extraordinary new boyfriend and his healing powers. She's posted a series of sultry snaps that opened up about her new boyfriend, Jim Curtis. She's 56, recently posted for Ellie's 2025 Women in Hollywood portfolio, which was featured in the magazine's December 2025 and January 2026 issue. The one image, the French star showed off her physique in a pair of 3,300 dark gray embroidered underwear and a long-sleeve gray top, both by the Italian luxury label Miu Miu. As long as they've got thousands to throw around, Hollywood is going to dominate the airwaves. Timothy Chalamet calls child-free life bleak, says fatherhood is on the radar for him. He's the Dune star, called the idea of a childless life bleak while discussing his relationships in an interview in Vogue magazine. 29-year-old Marty Supreme actor told the magazine November 6th he and a friend once watched a video of a person bragging about not having kids and how much time it afforded them to do other stuff. He said that's certainly a bleak life. He told the magazine while he knows some people that don't have children and can't have children, he believed, as Vogue contributor Matty Kahn wrote, that procreation's the reason we're here. Well, Joe Rogan rebukes ousted BBC executives, claims the network felt justified to lie about President Trump. He called him out over the scandal over the network's deceptively edited video of former President Trump, saying it shows the deep rot in mainstream media. The BBC has faced widespread criticism over a panorama documentary about Trump's January 6, 2021 speech delivered before the riot at the U.S. Capitol. Critics say that program was misleading because it omitted Trump's call for supporters to protest peacefully and spliced together remarks made nearly an hour apart to appear as one continuous statement. He's threatened a $1 billion lawsuit against BBC if that false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements are not retracted immediately. BBC News CEO Deborah Turnus and Director General Tim Davie both resigned in recent days amid the controversy. And Joe Rogan is not letting it go. Well, Elizabeth Hurley's striking red bikini photos have earned praise from supermodel Heidi Klum. She's more than ready to celebrate Tuesday, November 11th, took to Instagram to share bikini photos in a bright red suit. Bottom had gold detailing on the side, and she paired that look with a matching red cover-up. She captioned that post, "Happy Tuesday." In 3 of the photos, she had her arms above her head. In the last picture, she was standing and smiling at the camera. Heidi Klum was just one of hundreds of people who commented on the post. Well, Jimmy Kimmel has taken a week off after the death of the show's band leader. He announced on Tuesday he's taking the rest of the week off after the death of his best friend and the show's band leader, Cleto Escobedo III, also known as JR, or Jr. Kimmel gave an emotional tribute to his lifelong friend before revealing he would take a short break from Jimmy Kimmel Live, where Escobedo's father also plays in the band. He said, "Cherish your friends. We're not here forever," he said in his closing monologue. "And thank you for indulging me. We're going to take the next couple of nights off. I wanted to be here tonight to tell you about my friend, and Cleto loved Eddie Murphy, and he wouldn't have wanted us to miss this." Well, Sharon Osbourne tears up over President Trump's heartfelt condolence call after her husband Ozzy's death. She shared a rare moment of gratitude and grief after the death of her husband, rock icon Ozzy Osbourne. In an emotional episode of the Osbourne podcast, Sharon and Kelly and Jack Osbourne came together for a conversation about loss and love and unexpected kindness they received, including from President Trump himself. One point during the podcast, they played a voicemail that Trump left Sharon after Ozzy's death. Well, the biographer has urged Epstein to bash Trump for political cover in newly released emails. Hours after the White House accused congressional Democrats of electively leaking Jeffrey Epstein emails on Wednesday, Republicans in the House Oversight Committee made public tens of thousands of additional pages of documents, including emails between the late sex trafficker and prominent reporters. A lot of those emails included exchanges between Epstein and the magazine writer turned biographer Michael Wolff. Wolff reached out to Epstein repeatedly, in some cases discussing Epstein's public image and encouraging him to bash Trump as a way to repair it. He said, "The New York Times called me about you and Trump." Wolff wrote that to Epstein in February 2016, according to the documents. And Hillary's campaign is digging deeply. You ought to consider releasing all this information. It would help your own image. Well, flight reductions are frozen at 6% as air traffic controller callouts see rapid decline. The flight reduction freeze is going to be in place till the FAA determines it's safe to return to normal operations despite the government reopening. Department of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration issued an emergency order Wednesday, freezing flight reductions at 6% amid a rapid decline in air traffic controller callouts. Well, a lot of older commentators are being told they have to champion the next center-right wave. While it may be wise for younger people to study the analysis of older people, especially those with credentials in finance, government policy, and election management and predictions, it's frankly unreasonable to expect that. OK Boomer expresses not just a joke about seniors living in the past, but also a considered conclusion after older commentators are simply unfamiliar with the perspectives and concerns of millennials, Generation Z and Generation Alpha. Well, there was a bit of a snafu and a lot of travel chaos after the Marriott-backed hotel chain planned bankruptcy. Guests were reportedly forced to vacate the properties with minimal notice. Sonder announced Sunday it is immediately winding down operations and plans to file for bankruptcy. One day after Marriott International terminated its license agreement with the hospitality company. The short-term rental operator, which offers apartment-style accommodations and boutique hotel stays, says it intends to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy protection amid severe financial constraints linked to challenges integrating its systems with Marriott International. Well, we've been talking in previous shows about a lot of mysterious and unexplained disappearances. And there's been a lot of, in this country alone, over 100,000 people a year vanish. And some of the disappearances are absolutely mind-boggling. There was one particular disappearance, happened in 2000. A young man named Zebb Quinn finished his shift at Walmart and met his co-worker, Robert Owens, to look at a Mitsubishi Eclipse that Owens had told him about. The two were caught on surveillance cameras at the Eblin Citgo gas station buying sodas about 9:15 that evening. Shortly after that, they left the station in separate vehicles heading toward the Long Shoals Road. And according to Owens, while they were driving, Quinn flashed his headlights, signaling Owens to pull over. Quinn told Owens he'd got a page and needed to return a call. After he made the call from a nearby payphone, Quinn appeared frantic and canceled their plans, said he had to leave. Owens claimed Quinn near rear-ended his truck before driving off, and that would be the last confirmed sighting of Quinn. 2 weeks after his disappearance, on January 16, 2000, his car was found abandoned in the parking lot of the Little Pig's Barbecue restaurant close to Mission St. Joseph's Hospital, where Quinn's mother and grandmother both worked. The car presented several strange clues. The headlights were on, a large pair of lips with an exclamation mark were drawn in lipstick on the rear windshield. And inside was a live black Labrador mixed puppy. It didn't belong to Quinn. Additionally, the car contained several drink bottles, a jacket not belonging to Quinn, and a plastic hotel key card that couldn't be traced to any hotel. Owens immediately became a person of interest due to his contradictory statements and peculiar actions. On January 4th, 2 days after Quinn vanished, somebody called Walmart claiming to be Quinn and reported he was sick and wouldn't be into work. Well, that call was traced back to a Volvo plant where Owens worked. When questioned, he eventually admitted he made the call but insisted it was done at Quinn's request. Well, Owens also claimed to have been involved in a separate car accident the night Quinn disappeared, which he said occurred near a Waffle House. But no accident report was filed, and the injuries he sustained were inconsistent with the vehicular collision. And his erratic behavior and the inconsistencies in his story made him the prime suspect. One of the most puzzling aspects of the case was the page Quinn received on the night he disappeared. Investigators traced that call to the home of Quinn's aunt, Anna Ustich. But Ustich denied making the call, said she was having dinner with her friend, Tamara Taylor, at the time. Taylor's the mother of Misty Taylor, with whom Quinn had a potential romantic involvement. Misty's boyfriend, Wesley Smith, was also present at the dinner. This discovery added another layer of complexity, as both Taylor and Smith were considered potential suspects. For years, the case went cold with little progress. And in March 2015, Owens was arrested for the murder of Christy Schoen Codd, her husband Joseph Codd, and their unborn child. Investigation into these murders led to a search of Owens' property, where authorities found fabric and leather material and unknown hard fragments under a layer of concrete. These findings, of course, reignited interest in Quinn's case. In 2017, Owens was indicted for first-degree murder in connection with Quinn's disappearance. During his plea deal in 2022, Owens accused his uncle, Gene Owens, of murdering Quinn. He said Gene, hired by Wesley Smith, had lured Quinn and him to the Pisgah National Forest under the pretense of meeting Misty Taylor and subsequently killed Quinn. Owens claimed to have witnessed the murder and helped to dispose of Quinn's body, which was allegedly dismembered and buried. Several theories have emerged over the years about what happened to Zebb Quinn. Could have been an abduction and murder by acquaintances. The most supported theory involved Quinn being murdered by people he knew, possibly due to his involvement with Misty Taylor. This theory gained traction after Owens' partial confession of discovering incriminating evidence on his property. Or it could have been a voluntary disappearance. Some have speculated Quinn may have disappeared voluntarily due to stress or personal issues. but this theory is widely dismissed by his family and friends who described Quinn as responsible and close to his loved ones. Then there's mistaken identity or random crime. Another theory is that Quinn may have been the victim of a random crime or mistaken identity. But the specific personal nature of the clues found, such as the lipstick marks and the page from his aunt's home, make this theory less likely. Well, the disappearance of Zebb Quinn remains one of North Carolina's most haunting mysteries. Despite the partial resolution provided by Owen's confession and subsequent guilty plea, a lot of questions remain unanswered. The involvement of multiple parties, the strange behavior of Owens, and enigmatic clues left behind continue to perplex investigators and haunt those who knew Zebb. As new information occasionally comes to light, the hope persists one day the full truth of what happened to him will be uncovered, providing closure to his family and friends. But with cases like this, it's very, very difficult to actually get to the truth. Well, now we're going to talk about a totally bizarre disappearance, that of Natasha Ryan, known as the Girl in the Cupboard. Became the center of one of Australia's most perplexing missing person cases when she vanished in 1998 at the age of 14. Her disappearance, presumed death, and subsequent discovery alive 5 years later, hiding just kilometers from her home, captured that nation's attention and caused a widespread media frenzy. Now, Natasha Ryan was a teenager from Rockhampton, Queensland, had a history of running away from home. July 1998, she disappeared while walking the family dog. Found days later in an outdoor music venue, and she'd been staying with her boyfriend, Scott Black. Black, of course, was immediately charged with abduction, but the charges later dropped, and he was fined for obstructing the investigation. August 31st, 1998, Natasha's mother dropped her off at North Rockhampton State High School. And at some point during the day, she vanished again. Given her past behavior, the police initially believed she'd return soon. But as weeks turned into months and other women in the area went missing, the assumption that undoubtedly was another runaway faded, giving rise to fear she might have been the victim of a local serial killer. Police launched an extensive search for Natasha, enlisting the help of over 100 local state emergency service volunteers. Witnesses reported seeing her talking to an older man outside a cinema shortly before her disappearance. That supported the belief she had actually run away. Despite this, the lack of contact and growing number of local disappearances suggested something even more sinister. About the same time, Leonard Frazier, a convicted rapist, was implicated in the murders of several women in Rockhampton, including Beverly Lego, Sylvia Benedetti, and Julie Turner. Frazier eventually confessed to killing Natasha, claiming he'd met her at a movie theater, attacked her, and disposed of her body in a pond. Well, despite leading police to remains of other victims, no evidence from Natasha's body was ever found. But the police accepted his confession, and her family held a memorial service for her on her 17th birthday. Unbeknownst to her family and the authorities, she was alive and well, living with Scott Black. For nearly 5 years, she resided in various homes around Rockhampton and nearby coastal village of Yuppon. Scott worked as a milkman and managed to keep Natasha hidden even from close neighbors. She only went outside a handful of times, always under the cover of darkness, and spent most of her days indoors with the curtains drawn. Well, contrary to popular belief, Natasha did not spend all her time in the cupboard. She'd hide there only when visitors came. Otherwise, she moved freely around the house, engaging in activities like cooking and reading and sewing and surfing the internet. Secret was so intense that she made sanitary towels from bath towels to avoid Scott having to buy them and raise suspicion. At Frazier's trial for Natasha's murder, guilt and fear may have weighed on her mind. In early April 2003, Natasha, using the name Sally, contacted a children's counseling service and anonymously revealed her location. This tip led the police to raid a house on Mills Avenue where they found Natasha hiding in a bedroom cupboard. Her discovery shocked everybody, especially since her family had long since believed her to be dead. The prosecutor at Frazier's trial informed Natasha's father initially thought the police had found her body. It was a bittersweet moment when she realized she was actually alive and well. The revelation of Natasha's whereabouts led to significant legal and social consequences. Scott Black was sentenced to 1 year in prison for perjury after falsely claiming he didn't know Natasha's location. Natasha herself was fined $4,000 in order to pay $16,000 toward the investigation costs for her role in the false police investigation. Natasha and Scott later married in 2008 in a highly publicized and financially lucrative event. They secured media deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for exclusive rights to their story and the wedding coverage. This profiting from the ordeal stirred public outrage from given the extensive resources and emotional toll that been invested in searching for Natasha. Despite the public media frenzy, Natasha's family struggled with her reappearance. Her mother, Jenny Ryan, expressed deep hurt and anger over the years of grief she had endured. Natasha herself acknowledged the pain she caused, but also stated the reasons behind her disappearance might not fully justify her actions to her family. Several theories emerged about why she ran away and stayed hidden for so long. Some speculated her troubled teenage years and desire to be with Scott, who was significantly older, motivated her actions. Others believed Natasha felt trapped by the lies she had spun and saw no way to return without severe repercussions. Her case highlights the complexities of human behavior and the sometimes irrational decisions made under emotional distress. It also underscores the need for better mental health support for teenagers and the importance of understanding the deeper issues that lead to these drastic actions. Natasha Ryan's disappearance and eventual reappearance remains a poignant and controversial chapter in Australian criminal history. Her story, which is filled with deception, emotional turmoil, and public spectacle, continues to be a subject of fascination and debate. Today, Natasha, who's now known as Tash Black, lives a relatively private life with her husband and children, moving past the shadow of her troubled teenage years. Well, from a very strange girl, let's talk about Ben McDaniel. August 18, 2010. Ben McDaniel, a 30-year-old scuba diving enthusiast, vanished without a trace while exploring an underwater cave at Vortex Spring in Ponce de Leon, Florida. Despite extensive search efforts, no definitive evidence of his fate has ever been uncovered. And he was born April 15, 1980 in Memphis, Tennessee. He's an experienced diver, earned his open water diving certification at 14. Despite his enthusiasm, he faced significant personal challenges. His marriage recently ended in divorce and his construction business failed. Left him with a debt of about $50,000 to the IRS. To help him cope, Ben's parents offered him their beach house in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. He moved there to start over. During his time in Florida, he frequently visited Vortex Springs, a popular diving location known for its underwater cave system. He actually became a familiar face at the dive shop and formed casual relationships with other divers and employees. August 18, 2010, he arrived at Vortex Springs, completed a dive in the afternoon, during which he was observed studying the cave entrance carefully. After he resurfaced, he refilled his tanks, recorded in the dive shop logs, and spent the remainder of the afternoon preparing for another dive. About 7:30 in the evening, as the sun began to set, he embarked on his final dive. Witnesses, including dive shop employee Chuck Cronin and Eduardo Terran, saw him enter the water and proceed toward the cave. Now, Terran, who was aware that Ben had been known to force open the gate to the cave, unlocked it for him, watching as Ben descended into the depths. And this would be the last confirmed sighting of Ben made by anybody. His truck was discovered in the Vortex Spring parking lot the next morning with his wallet and phone and other personal belongings inside. His decompression tanks were found near the cave entrance, unused. When he failed to resurface, the Holmes County Sheriff's Office was contacted and the search was initiated. Experienced cave divers, including Ed Sorensen, conducted multiple dives into the cave system trying to locate Ben. Despite their efforts, they couldn't find any trace of him. Sorensen, who had explored the cave extensively, concluded Ben was not in the cave, either dead or alive. Now, a number of theories have emerged regarding his disappearance. Number one, it could have been an accidental drowning. Most straightforward theory is that Ben drowned somewhere inside the cave, but extensive searches by experienced divers failed to locate his body or any equipment, which casts doubt on this particular explanation. Could have been foul play. Some speculate he was the victim of foul play. Suggestions he may have been murdered and his body removed from the area. But there's no concrete evidence to support this theory. Could have been a staged disappearance. It was theorized he might have staged his own disappearance to escape his financial and personal troubles. Supporters of this theory point to the fact that no trace of him was ever found, the possibility he might have used the dive as a cover to start a new life elsewhere. And then it could have been natural causes. It's also possible he encountered a natural hazard within the cave that caused his demise. This theory includes the possibility of his body being swept away by underwater currents or becoming trapped in an unsearched part of the cave. His family has been relentless in their search for answers. They hired private investigators and increased the reward for information linked to the discovery of his body. But despite these efforts, no new evidence has emerged. Family even arranged for the issuance of a death certificate in 2013, although they continue to hope for closure. His case has drawn significant media attention, featuring in documentaries like Ben's Vortex and episodes of Disappeared. His disappearance has also sparked discussions about the safety and regulation of cave diving, highlighting the inherent dangers of this particular sport. Disappearance of Ben McDaniel remains an unsolved mystery that haunts both the diving community and those who knew him. Whether he met with an accident, foul play, or chose to disappear voluntarily, the lack of definitive evidence leaves all possibilities open. The quest for answers continues, driven by the hope and determination of his family and the diving community. Until new evidence comes to light, though, the fate of Ben McDaniel is an open question. Then we got the disappearance of Brandon Lawson. On the night of August 8, 2013, Brandon Lawson, 26-year-old father of four from San Angelo, Texas, vanished under mysterious and alarming circumstances. His vanishing act, punctuated by a frantic 911 call, has baffled investigators, captivated true crime enthusiasts, and devastated his family. He was living with his longtime girlfriend, Ladisa Lofton, and their children. Evening of his disappearance, Brandon and Ladisa had an argument, reportedly about his recent relapse into drug use and the stress of their long working hours. After the fight, he left home, intending to drive to his father's house in Crowley, Texas, more than 3 hours away. About 11:30 p.m., he called his father to let him know he was on his way. At 12:30 a.m. on August 9th, Brandon's truck ran out of gas on U.S. Route 277 near Bronte, Texas. Called his brother Kyle Lawson and asked for help, sounding panicked and claiming there were 3 Mexicans in the neighborhood that were chasing him. Kyle, suspecting Brandon might be hallucinating, reassured him and set out with his wife and child to bring gas can to Brandon's location. About 12:50 a.m., Brandon made a chilling 911 call, which later became a focal point for the investigation. In the call, he could be heard saying he needed the police and mentioned something about being in the middle of a field. Pulled some guys over, and one car here, the guy's chasing me into the woods. Well, the call was difficult to understand due to poor reception and Brandon's apparent distress, but it clearly indicated he thought he was in danger. Trucker passing by reported Brandon's truck to the police about 12:56 in the morning, noting it was parked hazardously on the road. A Coke County deputy arrived around 1 o'clock in the morning just as Kyle reached the scene with a gas can. And Brandon, who had been on the phone with Kyle, claimed he could see him arriving, but was nowhere to be found when Kyle and the deputy looked around. Kyle immediately thought Brandon might be hiding due to an outstanding warrant for his arrest on drug charges. And the deputy inspected the area and didn't find any sign of Brandon. Kyle waited in his car down the road for about 45 minutes, hoping Brandon might emerge once the deputy left, but he never did. By dawn, when Kyle returned to the truck, Brandon was still missing. Authorities launched a comprehensive search involving thermal imaging cameras and aerial searches and cadaver dogs. Despite these efforts, no trace of Brandon was ever found. Friends and family set up a Facebook page, helped find Brandon Lawson to coordinate search efforts and gather tips. Now, a number of theories have come to light about what might have happened to Brandon. Number one was foul play, of course. Some believe Brandon's claims of being chased suggested he encountered foul play. The rugged terrain and presence of wildlife raised concerns that he might have been injured or worse. Could have been a drug-related incident. Given Brandon's recent drug relapse and the paranoia evident in his calls, it was speculation drugs played a role in his disappearance. Of course, there was no concrete evidence to support this theory. It could have been an accidental death. The other theory was that Brandon, disoriented and possibly injured, succumbed to the elements in the harsh Texas landscape. Well, years passed with no significant developments until February 2022, when a search party found clothing near Brandon's last known location. and subsequent searches by the Texas Rangers uncovered human remains in the vicinity. And while DNA testing was still ongoing at the time of that discovery, Brandon's family accepted the remains were likely his given the proximity and context of the findings. Well, despite the discovery remains, the exact circumstances of his disappearance remains unclear. A number of theories, of course, have circulated. Number one could be wild animal attack. The remote area where he disappeared is home to various wildlife, including predators that could have attacked him if he was injured or unable to defend himself. Could have been an accidental injury. He mentioned he was bleeding during one of his calls to Kyle. Possibly he sustained an injury that incapacitated him, leading to his death from exposure or further injury. Could have been human foul play. Though less supported by evidence, some believe that Brandon may have been the victim of foul play, possibly related to his drug use or the people he mentioned chasing him. Well, the disappearance of Brandon Lawson's a case that highlights the difficulties in resolving missing person cases, particularly in remote or rugged terrains. Fragmentary evidence and the passage of time have only deepened the mystery. And while the discovery remains near his last known location has brought some measure of closure to the family, a lot of questions still remain unanswered. At this point in time, DNA analysis and investigation into Brandon's death are still ongoing, with his family and the community holding out hope for definitive answers. The case underscores the importance of timely and thorough investigations, as well as the need for continued support for those left behind in the wake of these tragic disappearances. Well, we're going to talk now about Raymond R.J. McLeod, former U.S. Marine and avid bodybuilder. Became one of the U.S. Marshal Service's most wanted fugitives after the brutal murder of his girlfriend, Crystal Mitchell, in 2016. We're going to explore the details surrounding Mitchell's death, McLeod's subsequent flight from justice, and the extensive manhunt that ultimately led to his capture. This case does highlight issues of domestic violence and international fugitive tracking and the resilience of a victim's family in seeking justice. Now, Crystal Mitchell was a 30-year-old property manager from Phoenix, Arizona, and she met Raymond McLeod when they moved into the apartment complex she managed. They began dating, and after only a few weeks together, they decided to visit San Diego to see McLeod's friends. Unfortunately, for all concerned, this trip turned fatal. On June 10, 2016, the San Diego police responded to a 911 call reporting a woman not breathing in an apartment. Crystal Mitchell was found deceased with signs of a struggle. She had been brutally beaten and strangled. McLeod was the last person seen with her, disappeared along with her car. After the discovery of Crystal's body, authorities quickly issued an arrest warrant for McLeod. Investigators believed he fled to Mexico after the murder, driving Crystal's car to San Diego Airport, who rented another vehicle to cross the border. This marked the beginning of an international manhunt. Now, McLeod's violent tendencies were well documented. He was an ex-Marine with a history of heavy drinking, and he'd been involved in multiple incidents of domestic violence. Had two ex-wives who both accused him of abuse, and one incident involving his roommate witnessing him strangling one of his wives. This history painted a grim picture of McLeod as a dangerous individual prone to violent outbursts. McLeod's escape led him through several Central American countries. He was seen in Mexico and Guatemala and Belize over the next few years. U.S. Marshal Service, along with the local authorities, pursued numerous leads, often narrowly miscatching him. His presence was confirmed in these countries through various sightings and tips, but he managed to evade capture, often disappearing just as authorities were closing in to arrest him. Crystal Mitchell's mother, Josephine Funes Wenzel, played a crucial role in the search for McLeod. Former police detective herself, Wenzel utilized her investigative skills and social media to keep the public informed and to gather leads. She tirelessly campaigned for justice, traveling to Central America herself in hopes of finding McLeod. And her efforts brought significant attention to the case, ensuring it remained a priority for law enforcement. In April 2021, McLeod was placed on the U.S. Marshal's 15 Most Wanted list, the first fugitive to debut with an initial reward of $50,000 for information leading to his arrest. This unprecedented move highlighted the danger McLeod posed and the urgency of capturing him. The reward and his placement on the list were widely publicized, furthering efforts to locate him. Well, after 6 years on the run, McLeod was finally captured on August 29, 2022, and Cincinnati, El Salvador. Found living under an alias and was arrested by Salvadorian authorities in collaboration with the U.S. Marshal Service. McLeod's capture was a significant victory for law enforcement, a moment of profound relief for Crystal Mitchell's family. Well, several theories and speculations arose during McLeod's time as a fugitive. His military background and survival skills that aided him in evading capture for so long. Some believed he got help from individuals sympathetic to him or unaware of his true identity. And his ability to blend into various communities and the transient lifestyle he adopted made tracking him down extremely challenging. The case of Raymond R.J. McLeod underscores the complexities and challenges of capturing international fugitives. Also highlights the devastating impact of domestic violence and the importance of persistent and coordinated law enforcement efforts. Crystal Mitchell's tragic death and her family's unwavering quest for justice served as poignant reminders of the far-reaching consequences of violence and the resilience required to seek accountability. His capture brought a measure of closure, but the fight against domestic violence and the pursuit of justice for all victims still continues. Then we've got Patricia Meehan. Patricia Bernadette Meehan, 37-year-old woman from Bozeman, Montana, vanished April 20th, 1989, under circumstances that continue to baffle investigators to this day, and they haunt her family as well. Known for her love of children and animals, she was described as a gentle, kind-hearted person. Her mysterious disappearance after a car accident on a remote highway in Montana led to a series of reported sightings across several states, left behind a trail of questions and scant answers. On the night of April 20th, 1989, she was driving on Highway 200 in Circle, Montana. Her car veered into the opposite lane, resulting in a head-on collision with another vehicle. The driver of the other vehicle, Carol Heights, was shaken but not seriously injured. Meehan, though, crawled out of her car, stared blankly at Hines, and walked away from the scene, climbed over a nearby fence, and vanished into the vast, desolate terrain of eastern Montana. When law enforcement arrived, they found Meehan's car abandoned with her belongings inside. And given her remote location in the cold night, there was an immediate concern about her well-being. Authorities launched an extensive search involving helicopters and bloodhounds and ground teams. But despite all their efforts, no trace of Patricia was ever found. Patricia's family, Tom and Dolly Meehan, traveled from their home in Pennsylvania to Montana to assist with the search. They distributed thousands of flyers and spoke to locals, hoping to find somebody who had seen their daughter. And their efforts, while described as heroic, yielded little in the way of concrete leads. In the months after her disappearance, there were numerous reported sightings of Patricia Meehan across various states. In fact, over 5,000 sightings were reported, with some appearing credible enough for the family and authorities to investigate further. One, on May 4th, 1989, came from Luverne, Minnesota. Police officers spotted a woman resembling Patricia sitting in a Hardee's restaurant for over 5 hours, drinking water and appearing disoriented. When questioned, she claimed she was from Colorado and Israel and refused to give her name. May 5th, 1989, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a waitress reported seeing a woman matching Patricia's description at a truck stop cafe. The woman reportedly stayed there for nearly 12 hours, drinking coffee and talking to herself. Then on May 5th, 1989, in Murdo, South Dakota, another witness saw a woman resembling Patricia with a man in his 30s at a local diner. The woman seemed to be out of place and distressed. Then in Bozeman, Montana, on May 19th, 1989, Patricia was reportedly seen at a diner in her hometown. She appeared hurried and disoriented, asking to be served quickly as she had some place to be at 9 o'clock in the morning. Then on May 30th, in Tacoma, Washington, a truck driver saw a woman resembling Patricia on Interstate 90. She declined a ride, stating her car had broken down and she was looking for a phone. Well, these sightings created a pattern suggesting Patricia might be hitchhiking across the country, possibly suffering from amnesia induced by the car accident. And a number of theories have been proposed regarding her disappearance. First and foremost, of course, is the amnesia angle. A lot of folks believe Patricia suffered a head injury in the car accident, leading to memory loss and disorientation. This theory is supported by the behavior described in the sightings. She often appeared confused and unsure of her identity. Then, of course, there's voluntary disappearance. Some speculate she may have chosen to disappear intentionally due to psychological issues. She had been seeing a psychologist, reportedly under significant stress prior to the accident. Then, of course, there is foul play, possibility that she encountered somebody with malicious intent while hitchhiking, leading to her abduction or murder. But no evidence has been found to substantiate this particular theory. And then there's natural causes, of course. Another theory is she may have died from natural causes or an accident while wandering. And if this was the case, she might have ended up as an unidentified decedent in another state. Well, the Meehan families remained steadfast in their search for Patricia. They traveled extensively, following up on reported sightings and appealing to the public for information. Their plight attracted media attention, and her case was featured on television shows such as Unsolved Mysteries, which brought national awareness to her disappearance. Family's determination and the widespread media coverage led to an influx of tips, but none appeared provided the breakthrough they were looking for. Despite the numerous reported sightings, each lead seemed to end in frustration and heartache. Patricia Meehan's disappearance had a profound impact on her family and the community. Her case highlighted the challenges faced by families of missing persons and the often slow and bureaucratic nature of search and rescue operations. It also brought attention to the need for better support systems for individuals experiencing psychological distress. Over the years, her case has remained open, with occasional new leads and sightings being reported. Her family continues to hope for answers and remains vigilant in their quest to find her. The disappearance of Patricia Meehan is a haunting and unresolved mystery. Despite the extensive search efforts, numerous reported sightings, and various theories, her fates remain unknown. Her case served as a stark reminder of the many missing persons whose stories are left incomplete, families yearning for closure and peace. As the years pass, the hope of finding Patricia alive fades, but the determination to uncover the truth endures. Her story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring bond of family love. It also underscores the importance of vigilance and empathy in the face of these tragic, mysterious events. Anybody with information regarding Patricia Meehan's whereabouts is asked to contact the Macomb County Sheriff's Office. That one tip you don't call in could be the key to solving this mystery. And there's one historical mystery that is probably worth throwing in. The story of Henry Hudson, the famous explorer. He's one of the most enigmatic and haunting tales from the age of exploration. He was a daring navigator. His ambition to discover the Northwest Passage ultimately led to his mysterious and tragic end. He was born in 1565 in England. Not much is known about his early life, but he did emerge as a notable figure during the early 1700s due to his ambitious attempts to find a new trade route. He embarked on 4 major voyages financed by both the English and the Dutch interest, with the goal of discovering a northerly route to Asia. His fourth and final expedition began April 17, 1610. He set sail from London aboard the ship Discovery. This voyage was financed by the English, and once again he was trying to find the elusive Northwest Passage to Asia. He had a crew of experienced sailors, but the journey was fraught with challenges from the outset. Navigated through the icy waters of the North Atlantic, eventually reaching what's now known as the Hudson Strait and Hudson Bay. He believed he had found the passage, but as winter set in, the ship became trapped in the ice in James Bay, Canada. The crew was forced to spend the winter there, enduring extreme cold and dwindling supplies. By June 1611, tensions had reached a breaking point. The harsh winter, lack of food, and Hudson's decision to continue the expedition rather than return to England led to unrest among the crew. On June 22, 1611, the situation escalated into mutiny, and the mutineers, led by Robert Jewett, Henry Green, and others, seized control of the ship. Hudson, his teenage son John, and 7 loyal crew members were put in a small boat and set adrift. The Discovery sailed away, leaving Hudson and his companions to their fate in the Arctic environment. Those castaways were never seen again. Upon the Discovery's return to England, the mutineers were arrested and charged with Hudson's murder. Despite the gravity of the situation, none were convicted. Lack of definitive evidence and the circumstances of the expedition contributed to their acquittal. Well, Hudson's legacy is profound despite his tragic end. And on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow, and once again, you'll be listening to Ken Hudnall and the Ken Hudnall Show. Until then, have a truly great evening.